Okay, that's the cue to stop playing. Good evening. Welcome to Lee County Public Education Center. My name is Tab Scribner. I'm the music director at Fort Myers Middle Academy, and we'd like to open our evening with a performance from our guitar ensemble. This year, we were able to restart our music program, and the guitar is a major part of that. This is one of our classes performing all new literature that we just picked up last week after winter break. So please join us, rise for the national anthem that one of my students, Brock Melvin, and I will perform first. Whenever you're ready, bud. Thanks again for joining us at the Lee County Public Education Building for our school board meeting tonight and introductory performance by our guitar ensemble. I can't tell you how much fun it's been working with these students. Middle school is absolutely the best, by the way. They come in different every day, and it's an adventure, and if something doesn't work one day, we can just pull out a different piece of music and try something else, and it's a lot of fun. We start our curriculum in note reading, so you hear a lot of melody, and then we add chords because there's more fingers involved, and if we start that first, their heads will explode. So let's continue our performance with a little bit of Beethoven, Ode to Joy. Turn the page, Rocky there. One, two, ready, go. So next, rock and roll. It's always a battle to determine if the microphone's actually on or not. Every microphone's different in every building. Another really cool part about teaching music is you can get in different subject areas. We do writing in our curriculum, we do reading in our curriculum, we do math, we even did algebra this year. And my favorite part is history. We did some Beethoven, and now we're going to jump forward a couple hundred years with some rock and roll. Just a couple hundred years. A 1, 2, that's fast, 2 times. A 1, 2, ready, go. Continuing the trend in playing with music history, one really cool part of music is that we like to recycle songs, especially folk songs, and turn them into popular tunes. In fact, the king of rock and roll turned Aura Lee folk song into Love Me Tender. One, two, ready, go. One, two, did I skip that? Yeah, we'll jump back, early. Slight miscommunication, we're good. One, two, orally, ready, set, go. One, two, three, four, one, two, three, four, one, two, three, four, one, two, four, one. One of the things they tell us in music school is that you never want to have to stop a piece and start over. Sometimes it's better if you just stop and do it. My apologies on that, I jumped the gun. Music in Florida is growing, and guitar is actually the area that's growing the fastest. 2 years ago, the state of Florida started offering an all-state guitar ensemble for the advanced high school guitar students. Guitar in Lee County is just starting to take off. There's a handful of established programs. We're one of the newer programs, and just building skill in the middle school level so that way when they are in high school, they can participate in those events. And what's so interesting, it's growing so fast, the publishers can't keep up with it. So there's very little guitar ensemble music available that's not custom written. And so getting pieces that have multiple parts can be a challenge. So we have to often create things. We've taken a duet in our method book, we've turned it into a trio by adding the harmony along with 2 melody parts. Au clair de la lune. See, I got it right there, huh? 1, 2, a 1, 2, ready, go. Two pages? 2 pages. In our journey in music history, we jump to the 1990s with Disney's film, The Lion King. We bring you Can You Feel the Love Tonight? In our guitar class, it's Can You Feel the Guitar Tonight? 1, 1, 2, a 1, 2, ready, go. For those of you that joined us after we started, my name is Tab Scribner. I'm the music director at Fort Myers Middle Academy. This is our guitar ensemble. We just did a winter performance like many of our schools did right before the winter break holiday. And we just found ourselves learning new music and saying, hey, let's do this performance, and here we are. So all of these students just started learning this music last week, and this week we're in final exams. I didn't even get to see these guys today, the way the exam schedule came together, and here we are. Our program is in a reboot mode, and these are all first-year players. We've not played guitar before. I've had them since August. And actually, going around the room, a couple of our kids have brought their own guitars, but literally every guitar we have has been donated, either through our own staff, teachers, families. Everything has come to us via donation, which is why everything looks a little different. But it all plays and it all works. The need is great. The program is growing. We've got 2 guitar classes, a guitar club, another edition of Guitar Club coming next week when the new semester starts. And we are always on the lookout if you have any guitars hidden in the closets. Yeah, it's a cheap plug, sorry. Next up, from the Beatles, Let It Be. Music teacher's deaf. Is it? You're gonna? I guess. Okay, sure. Right to stand by. Jump to stand by. Stand by.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to begin this evening's board meeting. The school board meeting of January 13 is now called to order. The time is 6:02 p.m. At this time, we request that all cellular phones and/or pagers be turned off or put in the silent mode. Also, we ask that you please refrain from using flash photography except during the special presentations portion of the meeting. We would like to take this opportunity to remind members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student reaches his or her highest personal potential, and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. Prior to the start of this evening's board meeting, we have been enjoying the sounds of the guitar ensemble from Fort Myers Middle Academy under the direction of Ms. Tabitha Scribner. At this time, the ensemble will present one more song.
One, two, you ready? One, two, a 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much, Guitar Ensemble. At this time, we'll take a brief pause while the performer's equipment is being removed. Thank you all so much.
Great job.
I guess I'll wait. Thanks, you too.
Thanks, John.
This evening's agenda includes the invocation, the presentation of colors and Pledge of Allegiance, 2 recognitions, 1 acknowledgement, public comment, consent action items, which include 1 item under resolutions, 3 items under executive services, 5 items under business and finance, 8 items under operations, 1 superintendent's recommendation, 1 item for public hearing, and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Fisher, seconded by Mr. Teuber. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Teuber will deliver the invocation, after which Ms. La Riviere will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. After the special presentations portion of the agenda, a brief recess will be called to allow those who wish to depart an opportunity to do so. Please rise for the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask that you look down upon us throughout this meeting and grant us the wisdom to see events in their true perspective, not for ourselves, but rather that we may learn in thought and knowledge for the gain of all. Let us incline our ears towards the wisdom and help us apply our hearts to understanding. Dear Lord, we give sincere thanks for the opportunity to lead this school district and for the opportunity to serve this community. May we listen to one another intently with the purpose of bettering ourselves and our constituents. May we humbly accept the responsibilities assigned to us, and may we carry out each of these responsibilities to the best of our capabilities. We ask this in your name, and to all is good. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, introducing the cadet who will present the flag this evening is Sergeant Major retired Charlotte L. Morris of North Fort Myers High School, JROTC program. Sergeant Major Morris served 21 years as a financial manager with the United States Army. She holds a bachelor's degree of science from Excelsior College, a master's of arts degree in leadership from the University of Texas in El Paso, and a Master of Education degree in Educational Leadership from North Central University. She has been an Army instructor for the Junior ROTC program since August of 2011.
Thank you, ma'am. Tonight, the colors are presented by Cadet Colonel Sidney Lohman of North Fort Myers High School. Cadet Lohman is the brigade commander of North Fort Myers JROTC program. Throughout her 4 years of JROTC, she has achieved many milestones and goals. She served as battalion commander during her junior year. She is a member of the Color Guard, Drill, and Rifle team, each of which has competed at state-level competitions. This year, the North Fort Myers Mixed Raiders team, commanded by Cadet Colonel Lohman, has become district champions, Florida State Raider Championship winners, and placed fourth in the nation. Cadet Lohman has volunteered many hours of community service in such events as the North Fort Myers Relay for Life, Take Pride in America National Parks Cleanup, supporting North Fort Myers High School, the Foundation for Lee County Schools, and through her work as an officer in the Police Explorers. Cadet Lohman is a member of the National Honor Society and plans to attend USF, majoring in psychology as a member of the Naval ROTC program. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
under God,
indivisible,
With liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. No, you guys can't sit.
That's right, I can't.
It took me a while, too.
Thank you. I have to hold on. Good evening, board members, Madam Superintendent. Good evening, board members, Madam Superintendent. Good evening, Madam Superintendent and board members. Is it on? Okay, it doesn't sound like it's on. I'm going to combine two recognitions because they involve the same group of outstanding individuals. I would like the district's Executive Director of Financial Accounting, Mr. William Tubb, and Director of Financial Accounting, Mark Santiago, to please join me here at the lectern. And I will let them introduce those that they have with them, because I know that they do. If you're with their department, come on down. The district's financial accounting department has once again earned two of the most prestigious awards in the financial accounting field. Both are related to the preparation and reporting of the district's comprehensive annual financial report, or CAFR, for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013. The first is the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting presented by the Association of School Business Officials International, and the second award is the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting presented by the Government Finance Officers Association. The fact that our financial accounting department has received these awards for the past 11 years, let me repeat that, for the last 11 years, speaks volumes of the expertise and dedication of this staff. We are very pleased to recognize the Financial Accounting Department, currently under the direction of Mr. William Tubb and Mr. Mark Santiago, for receiving these awards. And since there are two, and this one's heavy, I'll give one of them to you, one of them to you, and say congratulations, and which one of you would like to speak and introduce everybody? Okay, go ahead. Come on.
Thank you, Mrs. Dozier, Ms. Morgan, board members, Dr. Graham. Thank you for the recognition, and while I would like to think that I contributed to the team, in truth, these awards are the result of Mr. Santiago's hard work and the work of his team in financial services. I will therefore yield the floor to Mr. Santiago.
Thank you, Mr. Tubb, Ms. Morgan, board members, and Dr. Graham. I wanted to thank you for your continued support of the Financial Accounting Department. It is because of your support that we stand here today to receive these two recognitions for the 11th consecutive year. As Ms. Dozier has stated, our district is one of a small group of school districts in the state that has received these two awards for the presentation of its annual CAFR report. It is truly my privilege to lead such a wonderful and dedicated team of accountants and staff in the Financial Accounting Department. It is because of their efforts and work that we receive these awards tonight. I wanted to take a moment and recognize the three accountants that are with me tonight and to publicly thank them and the entire department for their tireless and dedicated efforts in recording all of our financial transactions with accuracy and excellence. I have with me tonight Ms. Jeanette Ingersoll, who's our fiscal control accountant, Ms. Lucy Best, who's our food service and billing accountant, and Ms. Lori Tant, who's our accounts receivable and reconciliation accountant. Thank you for your continued support.
You could have taken the heavy.
That thing is heavy.
I'll see they reuse them.
At this moment, we'll take a brief recess if anyone wishes to leave. Okay. On the agenda is public comment. Mr. Martin, would you please address the agenda item of public comment?
School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card and submitted that to me before the meeting began, you'll be called in the order of the card submitted. If you did not submit a card but still wish to address the school board this evening, the school board chair, Ms. Morgan, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment to the school board are posted at the back of the room and include the requirement that any speaker who wishes to address the school board to endorse the purchase of a product or a service in which that speaker has a personal interest. The speaker must reveal that interest before making comment to the board. The school board does not respond during public comment time to remarks made by speakers. At the conclusion of public comment time, the school board chair may address concerns raised by speakers or may assign responsibility to the superintendent to do so. Board policy requires that presenters confine their remarks to educationally relevant issues. Attacks on individuals and abusive comments will not be allowed. If individuals continue to violate such rules, they may be removed from the meeting. The time allowed per speaker is 3 minutes. Ms. Morgan, I have, 9 cards this evening.
Is there anyone on the right side of the auditorium who wishes to speak and did not? State your name, please. And on the, state your name, please. Mr. Morgan, please call, Mr. Martin, please call the first card.
First speaker is Mr. George Fox.
I decided to go early. After I spoke, I know I spoke earlier, and bear with me, I wasn't happy with my presentation. So, and it occurred to me that the board maybe just doesn't really understand the actual law in the state. But I wanted to come back and make my main point was not only do I think you should hold a special referendum as soon as possible, I think you should hold one every year. You should budget enough money out of the $1.3 billion. This election is more than just about an election over finance. It's about communicating with the public. It's about letting them know what the real issues are, what the truth is. I think Ms. Dozier's comments really show just how out of proportion the public's perception of the school district is to the good that this district does. And if for every 10 good things it does, there's a legitimate criticism, but all anybody knows is the one criticism. And this election is a chance to have the public understand the good that the board does and the reasons it should support it and give the money that it needs to get out of debt. You prayed for wisdom, Mr. Teuber, and that's fantastic. The wisdom is recognizing the opportunity that you have. It is not good wisdom to be in debt. It's excellent wisdom to get out of debt. So keep that in mind. We need to proceed on this right away. And the case will make itself. And Mr. Martin, I was talking with him earlier, there are some other facts about a special referendum. The district can spend money to pay for the election, but they can also, the elections can also be held at schools. So there is a possibility you could save a lot of money doing that. And also the district, I believe Mr. Martin will straighten and get you the true facts, can spend money on advertising and electioneering as long as it's not asking for a vote one way or the other, as long as it's presenting information. District has $448 million in debt. We spend $48 million a year in debt service. We want to get out of that. That money could be used at other places. You decide. You don't have to do that. There is, the state law has ways for this board to be independent, and that is the main thing. It has to be independent of the county commission, the state legislature. It has to be accountable to the students of Lee County and the people of Lee County. That's who formed you. That's who you owe your allegiance to. And to heck with these politics, because they don't count. This is not supposed to be a political board. Politics should not matter here. All that matters is good business policy and educating kids. So please keep that in mind. I'm a graduate of Lee County Schools, Fort Myers High School in 1977, and it works. Public education works, and I will continue to be an advocate for it for the rest of my life. I will live here in Lee County the rest of my life, and I'm going to advocate for it until the day I go. So thank you very much.
Next speaker is Ms. Diana Jackson.
Good evening. I'm the oldest of 5 children. I had a child that had a health problem growing up. I also was a teacher in Tennessee for over 30 years. I tutored in Knoxville for over 15 years. We came to live in Cape Coral 2 years ago, and this past year I wanted to tutor, so I put an ad in the paper and didn't get anybody on the phone call, and I found out from people that Lee County provided a tutoring service for the children. And so I immediately got placed with A+ Markham and BLS, a Basic Skills Learning tutoring program. And I just thought that this was such a blessing, what you guys were doing, because Tennessee never did anything like that. And so many parents that could not afford tutoring, it's just so sad that they could not have that opportunity, but you gave these children that opportunity. I have also done a lot of group teaching activities after school with math with parents and children, and also science. And nothing replaces that one-on-one. I know you want to do this summer, but the children that are lost now cannot wait till the summer. And so I'm asking you to please help the children have that one-on-one. We also educate the parents when we're with them, and the students who are gaining confidence in the skills will take less time from the teachers because they are better equipped to participate in the class, and so we all win. And the unintended consequences, which cannot be measured on a test, helping students begin to love reading. And that's part of my big goal. And the program has also helped our parents become more active with their child's education. Some of my Spanish parents are wanting to take English to help because they are seeing that there's a need for that. And I just think this would directly help the teachers in your school system and the parents in the community. So I just want to say thank you for the blessing that you've given the children, and I hope that you will continue it.
Next speaker is Ms. Elizabeth Vasquez.
I wrote something, I'm just going to read it. It's easier for me this way. I would like to take this moment to thank you all for allowing me to speak this evening. I would like to introduce to you my daughter, Erica. Say hi. Oh, okay. I also have a 17-year-old son and a first grader. My 17-year-old son has scored perfect scores on the FCAT, not once, but twice. I also have my first grader who has exceeded our expectation. She reads and comprehends above her grade level and has already begun to multiply. Why do I bring up my children? I want to demonstrate that not all children learn the same, at the same level, and at the same set curriculum. Erica has had difficulty comprehending and keeping up with her fellow classmates. Why? Well, not all children learn the same. My husband and I have been proactive in seeking help within our financial means in chasing down school employees and setting meetings to discuss Erica's progress. When we were presented with the opportunity to have Erica tutored at home, we were at our wits' end with the school system, and stress level at home had become very high. The school made us feel as if they had already failed our daughter. They dismissed her. They didn't want to help us. I ask that you please revisit your decision on continuing the tutoring program. Ms. Diana Jackson has been a blessing for my daughter. Ms. Jackson realized quickly that Erica's learning and comprehension skills needed to be organized around Erica and not everyone else's. She has also realized that my daughter was confusing letters and numbers. None of my daughter's teachers ever brought this up. My husband and I thought it was a phase. We had never experienced this with any of our other children. With the tutoring program, Erica has begun to understand and has almost caught up to her reading level. We are proud of her and her efforts and are thankful to Basic Learning Skills. Please don't dismiss the tutoring program completely. Please reconsider it for all children like my Erica. Some children need that extra help. Setting another program with the same set curriculum will not be the answer. If it did not work for some of these children, it will not work once again. Children like my Erica need one-on-one tutoring and teaching. Grouping them in summer school is not the answer. Please reconsider the tutoring program.
Next speaker is Erica Vasquez.
Okay, you don't have to. Erica just wanted to let you know that when she began the school year last year here in Cape Coral, she had a very hard time understanding what was going on in school. When she began the tutoring program and Miss Diana came on board with her, she now understands what's going on in class, and she's improved her grades. Thank you.
Next speaker is it Lali Galindo? I believe Ms. Galindo has an interpreter with her.
Buenas noches.
Good evening. Do I need to identify myself? Okay.
Yes, if you could state your name, please.
Tanya Matos.
Thank you.
Yo no tengo una carta,
I don't have a letter,
pero lo único que quiero es que mi hija siga con la tutoría.
but the only thing I would like is for my daughter to continue the tutoring services,
Así como todos y muchos niños que se van a quedar sin ella.
just like many of the children that are going to be without.
Todos debemos tener las mismas oportunidades. Hay niños que no aprenden igual que los otros.
Everyone should have the same opportunities. There are some kids that do not learn at the same rate as others.
Les pido por favor que reconsideren
I ask you to please reconsider
la decisión que han tomado.
this decision that you have made.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Roy Kinnix.
I am Roy H. Kinnix, Director of Development and co-founder of Basic Learning Skills, a 7-year-old Lee County River District-based education intervention company. We are proud to report to you tonight that over the 7-year history of our company, we have tutored over 5,000 students collectively in Lee, other counties in Florida, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, and the state of California. Objectively verifiable data show that 80% or more of the students we have tutored have made significantly appreciable learning gains. The Lee County School District is to be commended in its decision to continue the program commonly referred to as free tutoring. Following, as most of you know, the federal waiver under the No Child Left Behind Act, we know that many districts around the country discontinued the SES component known as free tutoring. I rise tonight to urge you to reconsider your decision to discontinue the ELS tutoring by private providers. With our flexibility, we have been able to provide expanded and diverse opportunities in reading and in math, one-on-one in the homes of students, public libraries, community centers, churches, on weekdays and weekends, including Sundays, in effect, providing an effective complement to the school-based Superstars program. Our tutoring personnel are a mirror of the school district's own personnel, all subject area certified, with graduate and terminal, in some cases, terminal degrees. In fact, most of our tutors have been and continue to be Lee County School District personnel and successful retired teachers. During the first half of the current ELS program, based on results of the Achieve assessment, a nationally known instrument, 88% of 120 students tested made significant learning gains, while the current phase of our program is just coming to an end and post-assessment activities still underway, we expect student performance to be comparable. We urge you to meet with current providers, partners as you have referred to us, and explore solution strategies that could make for an improved program on behalf of our children. Thank you for your attention.
Next speaker is Mr. Anthony Thomas.
Good evening, members of the school board, fellow citizens. My name is Anthony Thomas. I want to say that I concur with all of the previous speakers when it comes to the tutoring program. Our superintendent likes to talk about that she's a process person. I've heard her mention that several times, that she's a process person. Well, that's fine to be a process person, but I happen to believe that if you have a process where there are people around the table that is diverse in race and gender and viewpoint, that you'll get a better outcome. I think if our superintendent had a Latino in her cabinet, that Latino would have spoke up when this discussion came up and said, I think we're going to have problems with our Latino community. I know Amy is in the executive cabinet. I know if she had some more blacks in that cabinet, they would have told her, wait a minute, Doc, I think you might have some problems getting rid of this tutoring program as it's constituted. I think if you talk to most people, I know that a city council person is going to speak. They've sent you a letter. There is great consternation in the community about this decision. I think you ought to review it. But I want to talk also about another issue that is important as we talk about process. I spoke earlier at the briefing meeting where I talked about the lack of diversity in the maintenance department. Someone gave me some information, Charles Daly. He's been in the district for over 30 years. He's going to be running for school board. He knows a lot about the district. There's about 12 departments in the maintenance division. There are 12 departments, and none of them have an African American. Not one. I've talked to a couple of the people over there. They have over 100 employees in the maintenance department. The morale is at an all-time low. They have an executive director of maintenance who is not qualified. It's interesting, his deputy director, I guess, Mr. Buchanan, has a master's degree, and he's being supervised somebody with a GED. I just don't think that's right. I know you guys had a problem with your director of security that you had before, and you guys have now hired the former fire chief of Fort Myers, a great guy, to be your new chief of security. I just think that what is going on here is wrong. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that minorities, you know, when Dr. Graham first came here, the first day on the job, she went on in 10 minutes. She fired the two minorities. She didn't replace the Latino community, by the way, has 31,000 registered voters in Lee County, 21,000 African Americans. They have no say-so. They have no seat at Nancy's table when it comes to bringing forward issues that are important to their community. That's why I've been speaking about having a Latino and an African American advisory committee, because it's needed. And we're going to show you over the next course of months coming up here.
Mr. Thomas, your time is up, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Ms. Chris Quackenbush.
Greetings, board. We've been here many times before, and you all know that I am a staunch opponent of Common Core and high-stakes testing. And you've pointed me to Tallahassee to make the corrections, and many of you have also joined us in that effort. Well, I went to Tallahassee last week to the committee hearings, and I don't know if any of you were able to review those hearings, but my jaw dropped to the floor when I went to the Senate Committee on Education, K-12 education, because Senator Gates said these words. And Senator Gates, by the way, also claimed to have his DNA all over the testing systems that we have and accountability systems. He said, here's what I've learned today after an hour of listening to Pam Stewart. We don't know how much time is consumed by statewide assessments. We don't know how much money it costs to perform statewide mandated assessments. We don't know whether tests that are performed by state mandate are valid and reliable. We've learned today that we have no contingency plan if there are problems with statewide assessments. We have not beta tested statewide assessments. Those are the things that Senator Don Gates said in this committee. And he was echoed in his sentiment by most of the other senators who likewise brought out their personal experiences negatively with high-stakes testing and with Common Core. Well, we have a bill, and our bill goes further than what this board has asked. And I want you to review that bill, because our bill addresses the two main pieces, well, actually three main pieces. One is the standards. And our bill suggests that the commissioner provide us a list of pre-2009 best-of-breed standards in the United States that are freely available, pre-Common Core. And each district would have a chance to choose from that best-of-breed list which standards they, as a district, would like to follow. It also, likewise, asks the commissioner to develop a list of nationally normed tests that we could choose from. And this nationally normed test would give them their accountability piece they need to be administered one time only per year at the end of the year. So it also provides that there is an opt-out for parents who do not wish to participate in this grading system that is irrelevant to them. And it also takes these tests away from the high-stakes aspect of being used for the students' graduation and advancements. These are merely to inform us how we stand against the rest of the nation and to allow us to see that our children are learning at the same or better speed. I was chagrined to note in literature that I saw this week that our state has dropped to number 28 when you're comparing ACT scores across the country.
Thank you, Ms. Quackenbush. Your time is up, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Veronica Galindo.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Verónica Soto.
Okay. Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Veronica Galindo.
Dos de mis hijos, Humberto y Isaura Soto, recibieron tutoría privado. Este año escolar ellos ya habían recibido tutoría en el año pasado.
Two of my kids, Humberto and Isaura Soto, did receive tutoring by a private company this school year. They have both received tutoring in the past.
Pero en esta oportunidad tuvieron más tiempo por cada sesión y en fin de semana.
But in this opportunity, they received more time per session, and they were offered even weekend classes.
Que están más relajados y contentos.
When they're actually more apt to learn and more relaxed and seem happier to learn.
Y regresan diciendo que se sienten que han aprendido mucho.
And they come back excited and telling me that they felt they have learned a lot.
Esta tutoría da más ayuda a mis hijos y yo quisiera que continuara.
This type of tutoring actually helps my children even more, and I would really like it to continue.
Mis hijos se han beneficiado. Gracias.
My kids have really benefited from this. Thank you very much.
Those are all the cards, Ms. Morgan.
Thank you. Kevin Regal?
Good evening. At the last board meeting in December, I watched from my house and as a taxpayer could not believe what I was witnessing. It looked like a scene out of the movie Anger Management. I saw Board Chair Kathleen Morgan reprimand and scold two taxpayers and members of the community for apparently talking. Ms. Morgan, some people are hard of hearing, others have medical issues, and I am sure that if asked, they would apologize to you for talking. However, they are not in an elected position of power. You are. You spoke with disrespect through your words and your actions, making them feel belittled at the last meeting. For reference, you can click on the video minutes of the December board meeting and judge for yourself. In addition, I would like to know if any other board member considers treatment of the public in this respect to be appropriate. Ms. Morgan, you have shut off my microphone on a couple of times when I tried to bring important information forward that one of the district's executive directors claimed on his HR forms that he was never arrested, when in fact he was. Now I witnessed you scolding other taxpayers during public meetings. Ms. Morgan, you earn a salary of over $40,000 a year, including health benefits from the taxpayers. Due to your actions at the last meeting, you owe these citizens an apology. I am demanding an apology from you for your treatment towards them at the last board meeting. And if this is how you are going to conduct the business of the board in respect to the members of the community that you serve, then perhaps you should step down as chair of the board or resign altogether. Now, on to the business of the district. Superintendent Graham, it has been over 70 days now since I turned over information to you regarding one of your executive directors, putting down on his HR forms that he was never arrested, when indeed he was, on November 17th, 1994. You cannot get arrested and then claim it never happened on your HR forms, and then claim you did not have records expunged when you did. Why in the world, Superintendent Graham, did you ever promote a person with a background like this to an executive director's position? I want to hear an answer from you, please, in response to this matter. It is unacceptable that you are ducking my questions in this matter. This gives the public the impression that this situation is being covered up from the top and by you. Next, Superintendent Graham, it has been over 180 days with no response from you in the next situation. When you were principal at Cypress Lake High School, Mr. Solak Sr. was a teacher in your science department during your tenure. His son, John Solak, is a teacher at Lehigh Senior High. He was arrested for a DUI and disturbingly had a minor in the car during his arrest and had his license revoked. He was allowed to and did drive our district students and athletes to and from cross-country meets, all on a revoked license. Most of them were minorities, putting their lives in danger. He was still employed. Worse yet, your administration and the administration at Lehigh have failed to notify the parents of the athletes involved in this case. From our perspective in the community, it looks like favoritism and that you, Superintendent Graham, are protecting the son of one of your former teachers along with the principal over at Lehigh. Student safety must be our top priority to protect against the reckless decisions of our teachers and administrators. Why will you not talk about what actions were or not taken in this case?
Thank you, Mr. Rego. Your time is up, sir.
Melissa Giovanelli.
With all due respect, I am a taxpayer and I've been following the board for the past year. I've seen Mrs. Morgan cut off a mic, scold several speakers that come forward for what they think is important for the kids in the community. Her actions are a direct reflection on the board as a whole, which is very disappointing. Respect works both ways. You need to give to get it. And you, Mrs. Morgan, might want to rethink your position if you cannot give the respect that is required to fulfill the needs of this community. These people are only trying to bring forward information that keeps our kids safe and in a healthy learning environment. Their agenda is for the kids, and it should be the first priority for the school board as well. Instead, I see the opposite. Nothing being addressed or responses to these questions and concerns involving testing and school administrators that break school policies. If you are employed by you are employed by us. As a taxpayer, I expect our school district to be transparent and respond with direct information. We see these questions and concerns every meeting, and yet nothing being done, thus continuing to put the kids at risk. If the board cannot get the superintendent to do her job, then what next? Quit blaming her and do your job. Take control of the situation and get the job done. This is what you are hired and voted in to do. With that being said, you are trying to change the school policy regarding public comments. With this policy has been in place for many years, and it speaks volumes that you want to make changes now, later, and I don't understand, do you not want to hear what we have to say? Do you not want to hear what the public thinks and feels and sees happening, then bring it forward to the community and the school board? Thank you for your time.
Bob Valenta.
I hope everyone's holidays were good, and I hope everyone's sticking to their New Year's resolution. My New Year's resolution is to get rid of Common Core and high-stakes testing throughout the state of Florida and across these United States. In September, we were promised we would hear, we would have new district regulations to comply with SB 864, which gives this board the responsibility for books and materials. When will this be presented? When will you comply with this law passed July of 2014? Now, I'm asking these questions, and I'm expecting responses. For the last several meetings, I've asked many questions, and I've yet to get a response to any of them. So tonight, I'm expecting some answers. Thank you.
Mary, I'm sorry, I didn't get your last name. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. We come week in and week out. You guys sit there with the lip service that you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and you do nothing. We are rallying in Tally. This was something the board promised. Well, we took the matters into our own hand. We are going in March 6th. We expect every board member and our superintendent to be on that bus with us. You guys are not getting the job done. We're going to get the job done. We look to you to lead us, and you don't lead us. You all agree that the high-stake testing is damaging our children emotionally, but yet you don't take the action needed to stop it. Stand up, be brave enough to protect these children. You opted out and then you opted back in. Stop putting the blame up in Tallahassee. We pay you, sitting up there, to lead our children in their education. I am sick of crying with my granddaughter every single morning getting ready for school. Here is a kid that was a straight-A student. This year she cries, she don't want to go, I have a stomach ache, my head hurts, every excuse in the book because of what's going on in our school systems. I'm listening to these people about the tutoring. They're absolutely right. Every child is not a cookie-cut mold. Every child does not learn at the same pace. And what you're doing here is just taking every child and putting them into the mold and expecting the teacher to be able to teach. It's wrong, and you know it's wrong. You've admitted it over and over again to the people that come here week in and week out. But you don't do
Your time is not up, ma'am, if you had more to speak. I'm not sure why the microphone was turned off. Please turn it back on. You have a minute remaining.
I want answers tonight. Who's going to be brave enough to stand up and stop this abuse of the children? Who? Who is going to take a stand and say we're over-testing that's costing this district so much money that you're going to now jeopardize the children that are getting tutoring? You're going to take it away from them to pay for the testing so Jeb Bush can get richer? The Pearson Group can get richer when you know you're hurting our kids? You're looking me in the eyes, but not one of you have taken any action. It's sad. It's sad that I'm paying tax dollars for your salary to do nothing and pass the buck. I'm just disgusted. I have no faith in this board, and I definitely have no faith in Ms. Graham.
Oh, I'm sorry, Johnny Streets.
Good evening to the Honorable Chairwoman and Honorable members of the school board, Honorable Madam Superintendent, Mr. Attorney, and to the audiences here tonight. And I won't take up too much of your time, but I think my question first would be, have you all received my correspondence from by letter, by way of letter? If not, you should. I had my office in each of your letters, but be that as may, that's why I came tonight, to make sure that you got an opportunity to at least hear our concerns. You've heard some concerns so far. And when it comes to our students, you will hear some school districts, some people say, well, this tutoring is for, perhaps use the term, at-risk students. I stopped by to tell you that all of our students and everybody in any community is at risk for anything, but particularly our students. I would like to, and I'm not trying to give you a lesson, but I think we need to provide what we call not at risk, but at potential. At potential, by providing the tutoring services that gives that students a sense of hope, a sense of who they are, by being able to interact with someone perhaps who maybe look like them and come from the community that they are from. One of the things I've come to know that, and I'm very active with the Honorable Superintendent Graham and working with truancy and all of that stuff, I don't sit back and just complain. I offer some solutions to help. But when we look at our youth, some say our children are not deficient. Our children are not deficient. Our children may be different, but not deficient. As I heard the first speaker say that he came through the Lee County school system, I came through the Lee County school system also, graduating from Dunbar High School in 1967. So I have never left Fort Myers, but I'm concerned that if you all would just look at the situation and, well, what do you say, Johnny? Well, you're going to end the tutoring, that's what it says, but what solutions do you have for the rest of the year? If that's your choice, that's fine, pending that you're going to still hear from the community. But I think when you end it in the middle of a school year, so to speak, and not carry it to the end. We've been talking about school board, school having, what is it? Summer school for years. We cut that out. So we need that extra hope and handle that is provided by the best professionals that I've seen. So I just.
Thank you. I think I'll reserve my comments until the end of the meeting. Next is approval of action items in the agenda under consent. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under the unfinished business tabled items portion of the agenda? Ms. Fisher?
I have none.
Mrs. Dozier?
I have none.
Mr. Toiber?
I have none.
Ms. La Riviere? And I have none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda's consent action items?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Ms. Fisher. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Now we're up to superintendent's recommendations. Dr. Graham.
Before we do that, if I might introduce two people you
yes.
just approved to come into a new position. Winston Wood, Challenger Middle, is gone from teacher to assistant principal. And Chrissy Stout, Varsity Lakes Middle teacher, has come to the district as a research and assessment coordinator in the continuous improvement area. Chrissy? Sorry, I enlarged my recommendation and now I can't. I recommend board approval of the agreement with Ford & Associates, Inc. to continue serving as financial advisors to the School District of Lee County at a fiscal impact not to exceed $150,000 annually. Any cost above this amount will be board approved.
Is there a motion to approve? You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier.
Support.
Oh, Mrs. La Riviere. Discussion. Mrs. Dozier.
Well, Dr. Graham, you and I met yesterday, and I expressed concern with the fact, and you were going to get back with me, and you have not gotten back with me, about this contract. The last time this contract was brought before the board, I believe, was January the 17th, 2006. And it was to be in force for 5 years, from which date unless extended annually by the board. And it has not been extended annually. And so I told you that basically I felt as though this would probably need to go out for an RFP. So you told me you agreed with that. And so I just assumed that you were going to pull it and you know, that we weren't going to have this recommendation. So I will not be supporting this evening.
Mr. Teuber.
Well, I was going to pull the same, I had the same concerns. The contract was a 2006 contract. It was going to be, it went for 5 years so that it would be renewed in 11 and then annually after that. So it hasn't been renewed in 11 or 12 or 13 or 14. But even more particular, what I had problems with it was two things. Number one is it's a financial, the original one was a financial advisory contract to do our COPS and our bidding. And even though that's not required because it's a exempt service in the statute, I think that's one discussion. But the second part about this is that they were, this contract was actually not even a continuation, but it was a new contract because it actually added consulting work to about 3P and about so on, and I'm having a problem that, you know, the previous board had a question about where we're going to go with our P3 initiative and learn more about P3, and I think Ms. Dozier was leading the charge on that, and to find out a little bit more information about that. So a task force got formed. On that task force, deciding on how we're going to finance our school district and the different avenues we were going to use. Mr. Ford is part of that committee, so we've got one of the people that's going to financially benefit by the direction that we're going is providing the information and the consultation for the direction on the process that we're taking, and I have a problem with that. And I also have a problem with the fact that Mr. Ford, to my knowledge, has never done a P3 in his entire life, and there's authorities worldwide that have P3 experience, and he's not one of them. So I have a problem adding that to his contract to give him to do that. So the more I thought about that, and I know that an RFP process probably isn't necessary for the financial consultant, but I think we need to separate two things. Number one, P3, if we're going to go P3 direction, I think that's a direction, that's a discussion I think this board needs to have, and then find the appropriate people and find out what we want to have discussions on that P3 legislation. But as far as for our financing people, I really think it's time. I think we do need to RFP it because again, it's just something that I think we need to have a fresh look at it. And I recommend rather than have our do an RFP for something that is something that we haven't done in 12 years because we're using the same person. There's a lot of districts that have done RFPs for this type of thing, and I've already spoke to one that we can actually mimic the RFPs, the similar RFP that they've used, and craft it to our district. And I would be willing to work with the superintendent on the language if directed, if agreed with by the board. But I think that this needs to go out for an RFP, that we don't just continue to do same old, that we start really scrutinizing a little bit how we do business and send it forward. So I won't be supporting this action either. And I also recommend that we separate it from somebody who's got authority. If we're going to go P3 direction, that's a whole separate issue than our financing issue. This has actually to do with our COPS and our refinancing, that our financial advisor is something completely different. Their service code is a service code for financial advisory. And I don't believe any of them in that SIC code have any experience in P3. And I think that there's actually people that actually do that for a living, and most of them are up in, out in California or up in Wisconsin or in England, the ones that I found. But if we want to have somebody in that regard to have that discussion, I think we need to have somebody completely different and not put people together and think one person can fit all our needs, because I think we'd be disserviced.
I'm a real novice with all of this financial advisor piece, so pardon my, When does the contract end with Ford?
It's already ended.
It's been already ended.
We don't have one.
So my question is, why didn't the board request an RFP earlier so that it would have been done.
Well, if
So
I
that's my question. And the reason I'm asking that is, okay, so we don't have a contract and he won't be there. Everything will just stay as is until we do the RFP and make it, that's what I need some assistance with.
And again, that was my concern. You know, we've just done 2 refinancing, and every contract that gets brought up for a COPS financing, because we weren't bound to use a particular person, but, you know, Jerry's group, and I don't mean any disparaging to Jerry Ford and Associates, because they've done great work, and they do handle a lot of the districts across the state. So don't mean to make this anything personal or saying that Jerry doesn't do a good job, but when he brings forward a package, say you can save money, he brings forward a package. One of the line items in that refinancing bid is his commission, and it's right in there, and it's typically, and there's a schedule. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the Osceola contract, that's in the Osceola contract with Ford and Associates, which not in ours from 2005, actually specifies out what percentage at what numbers are refinancing. So if we were going to do one, we'd do that too. So I mean, there's even a better way to do it than the contract of 2005 or 6, and I was part of the board that did that. But their one is even better. It specifically delineates it in that contract. But a contract basically says, we're going to be your financial advisor for this period of time. Right now, over the last 4 years, Jerry just brings us the package, and we just listen to him and put him in the, you know, he gets paid every transaction, and it's a transactional thing. It wouldn't preclude us to go use somebody else, but again, we're in a mode, and that's the problem. You know, we've been doing it with Jerry for 5 years under contract and 4 years without. It's the same old, same old. So nobody else even knocks on our door with an opportunity because it's just assumed we're working with Jerry. And to me, as a steward of taxpayer money, that may be the best solution, but I want to see it. I want to put it out for bid. I want to make it competitive. I want other people to say, well, this is the things we can do, and for this board to have that opportunity rather than just go into the same old routine of just because that's what we've done, we're going to continue to do it. It's just not smart business.
Mrs. Fisher.
I have a question. Whose responsibility is it to inform the board that the contract is expired, number one, and it says approval of the agreement with Ford and Associates to continue serving? Is there a written agreement?
There was a contract that expired in 2011, and it's coming to you now because it was discovered that it had never been renewed. Apparently, there was conversation at one point with former members of the administration. It was never seen through, and when it was discovered, we brought it to you. And I will just tell you that, Ms. Dozier, I want to apologize for the misunderstanding. I thought there was going to be a discussion today rather than me pull it because you all were going to talk about this. I didn't understand. I didn't understand that because I knew other board members had questions. I can tell you that.
Did you think we were going to talk about it now?
No, I thought the board was going to talk about it.
Right now?
Yeah. That's what,
And so I'm giving you my discussion.
Yeah, I understand.
My discussion is that it's a contract that is no longer in existence, and I told you yesterday, I can't
know you
support
did.
it like this.
Right, I understand.
And I'm not changing my mind.
I'm not asking you to, I was just, didn't realize I was supposed to come back to you privately. The reality is that there is no requirement of an RFP, but we can do one. And it's an exempt service, and I don't know what else is in that exempt service, but I've been advised that it's an exempt service, so it doesn't require an RFP. And Mr. Toiber's right, we can ask whoever we want. I just want to tell you, as far as the P3 discussion, whoever would be our financial advisor, it's my understanding, would still have to look at those numbers. We'd have to get advice from someone besides the P3 people that we're proposing. There are numbers they'd have to look at. And the other thing is, we asked Mr. Ford to, when the board wanted more information, we asked him to enter that conversation just to tell us COPS versus P3, and I understand the thinking is he would have a bias one way or the other. I just, he didn't ask to be a part of that. We asked him to do that, so I just want to put that on the table. And also, just another piece of information as you're having this conversation, just fiscal year 15, which isn't over yet, Ford and Associates has saved us the actual value, $14,058,744.57, and we have paid them $103,000 and $103,780 to do that. So I need direction from the board if you want to do an RFP, if you want to have this contract, if you think we should, as things come up, that people just know we're open game. I'm not sure where you want to go with this. But it was brought to you because it was discovered that there was no contract.
Mrs. Fisher.
First of all, I want to say in my experience on the board, they have done a very good job, no doubt about that. Then I want to follow that with a question. Is it a requirement for us when we do business with someone who's performing a service like that for us to have a contract or a written agreement? Or can we just do business with anybody without such an animal?
I'll be happy to address that issue.
Thank you.
There's not a legal requirement that you have a contract in place. Certainly, it's best practice to have a contract in place. There are services that you purchase, that the school district purchases without having a contract in place with that vendor from which you're purchasing services. Certainly, it's good practice to have a contract in place, especially if the services being provided are complex and the board wants to make their expectations with respect to those services clear. It's good practice to have a contract in place, but technically there's not a legal requirement. Certainly the expenditure for those services is required to be approved by the board to the extent that's over $25,000. And my understanding is with each refinancing, with each COPS action, part of the action was for those fees to be approved.
Mrs. Dozier.
Yes, Mr. Torber, I heard you, and I was writing, so I missed part of your conversation about, you said something about another school district has a contract with him.
And I thought it was Osceola, but it's actually St. Lucie. St. Lucie actually shows that it's, the fees are subject to a minimum fee of $18,000 per debt issue. It's 75 cents per thousand for the first 25 million, 65 cents per thousand for the amount over 25 million, up to 100 million. 25 cents per thousand for the amount over $100 million. So, and that's for the fixed rate and tax credit offers. Then they have ones for refunding and issuance of long-term and fixed rate tax credit debit, and that's a little bit more expensive. It's 95% per thousand. Then it goes to 80 and to 30. So that's in the St. Lucie one, and I'll forward this to everybody. But that's basically, and similar to the same type of the consulting type things for the senior, the hourly rates for issues per event. There's a $15,000 out of pocket. All those type of things that were currently, that are currently in the contract that I remember. And I don't. I asked when I spoke to Dr. Graham. I tried to get with Dr. Morris. She got with me. She tried to forward me. That's why I was a little bit to the presentation. I still don't have that contract, but
This one?
I don't know. Is that the one that was from
The one
2005?
that's 2006?
Yeah, it's 2006. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I could recall. I remember that we didn't have. I don't believe we had dollar amounts in there just for the hourly rates. Is that right?
Well, and I apologize because, in order to give you information, I don't know where the line is. We learn more about Sunshine every day. And, when this came across, I immediately looked at it and I said, wait a minute, we haven't had a contract for Jerry Ford and I don't know when. I don't remember a contract. So I immediately did some backgrounds. I asked, when was the last time we did a contract? And it was 2006. I need a copy of that. So they gave me a copy of it. And with that, I saw that, I know just enough about the law to be dangerous, and I've told you that, and I've told Mr. Martin that. But I do know dates, and when I saw that there was a 5-year period and it had to be extended yearly by the board, to me, that basically meant that we really didn't have a contract with them since 2011. And I did not know that there were some differences as far as what the rates and all that were as far as, did you say Osceola?
St. Lucie.
St. Lucie.
St. Lucie.
I will reflect back on the conversation that I had with Dr. Graham, and I did say, as it stands, because we have not had any recommendations since 2011, and it clearly states, and I've got it highlighted here where I highlighted it while she was in my office, I said it clearly states that it extended annually. That means it would come every year. Is that correct? Am I wrong in that, Mr. Martin? Is that correct?
I believe it's annual extension at the 5-year point. I'd have to look at the contract
Unless
again.
extended annually by the board, is what it says. That's
It'll
the
be a
language.
5-year term unless extended annually by the board.
Okay.
I believe, but I'm not certain. I'm sorry, I don't have
Okay,
that contract. in front
so,
of me.
when I looked at that, I said, okay, well, obviously, I do know that the contract ran out in 2011. Is that correct? Okay, that's correct. And I do recall our conversation, and I did say to you, Miss Superintendent, I said to you, I will not support this.
I know you did.
Because I think it needs to go out for, and you agreed with me, and I'm not gonna let you go back on that, Nancy, because you agreed to it, and you said that, well, I'll see and I'll get back with you. That was your exact word. And I have, in the past, I have brought stuff up just like this, and the only place that I have to bring this up is here at this table. I can't bring it up anywhere else. And unless I hear back from you, that's where I'm gonna have to do my talking.
I'm going to put this conversation to bed because I'm not going to support the item either. So I'm just going to ask the superintendent withdraw. May I do that?
But you have a motion and a second on the floor at this point before.
Belongs to the table.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So let's vote it
Well,
down.
you can do that, or
Here,
you
one more
can,
comment. If we vote it down, we still need to give the board the
have to give a
direction to the
directive.
superintendent on what we want to do.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Other discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Motion fails 5-0. I think what we need is for the superintendent to bring back a recommendation to us, and I don't care, I think that's something that staff should work on.
Well,
Do we
I
need
think
a
we need,
recommendation, or do-
I think we need to give her direction to prepare, to get an RFP.
Correct.
But I would also like to caveat that I would like it to be an RFP, have her go to query people that have already went through the RFP process for a financial advisor.
I think that's a conversation we can each individually have with her.
Well put.
Well, it's not uncommon for us to appoint a board member to work with the superintendent, and because Mr. Toiber, I know, is very good in contracts because he's done a lot of contracts from my husband's business, I would certainly recommend that he work with the superintendent on putting together what the expectations are, because I can say, I mean, I don't say that he speaks for me, but I would imagine, since he has represented my family in some other issues, that I would probably question maybe some of the things, but more than likely, I would agree with what he came up with. So I would suggest that we, and this is not uncommon at all for us to do this. You know, sometimes we tell the chair to do it, sometimes we tell the vice chair, sometimes we tell just a regular member to write a letter or something like that. So what I'm doing is saying that, you know, I don't have a problem at all with us saying, Mr. Toiber, get with the superintendent and put it together.
Ms. LaRiviere.
Just a question. Again, I'm a novice to this, and this is the perfect example of the fact that we have to operate in sunshine and we never get a chance to talk outside of this. When we do the RFPs, can we set it up to say what we are looking for? And so that we set down the criteria? Okay, good, because I would like us to do that, if we can. Okay.
Ms. Fisher, comment?
No further comments about this, thank you.
Comment about Mr. Toiber representing the board?
Oh, I would support that,
Okay.
if he's
Fair enough.
willing.
Are you willing?
Oh, absolutely.
Dr. Graham, would you please present your recommendation for this evening's public hearing?
Oh, dear. Don't you? You don't have. Again, it's too small. Yeah. Right here. Right? Isn't that it right there? Approval of the revisions to policy 1.09, board meetings to establish the opportunity and rules for administration of a second public comment period at regular school board meetings to enable speakers to address relevant matters not on the agenda of the meeting. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, January 14th, 2015.
We will now recess the regular school board meeting and open the public hearing. As indicated, the public hearing this evening is to consider approval of the revisions to Policy 1.09, board meetings. At this time, the public will be invited to speak on this one item. The time allowed for comment is 3 minutes. Is there anyone on the right side of the auditorium? Mr. Regal? Anyone else? Is there anyone on the left side of the auditorium who wishes to address this? Okay, Mr. Bolenta and Mary Orthodox.
Miss Mary, would you spell your last name for us?
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Regal.
Actually, in regards to this topic, I have probably a lot more questions than statements just to ask to find out more information. As an educator, we find out that best practices are to have the most amount of information. And as we look through the news press and the other news agencies that put this forward, I try to weigh the pros and cons of this and see what might happen. One con, I was wondering if you could address it, is it seems that in a public setting, although the talking wouldn't be taken away from people, it would be limited that if there was a topic on the agenda at the first time that the public gets to speak, only issues pertaining exactly to that agenda could be brought up. That would mean that anybody else would say, like in my case, a safety
Regal,
concern.
please address the board.
A safety concern. Actually, I had something in my eye. I'm sorry, Ms. Morgan. As I was trying to look and do that, once again, I'm interrupted by you, and I wonder why. Is this normal policy for you? I think it's very rude, and I'd like an apology on that one as well.
I'm not apologizing. You're here to address the board. I'm asking.
I
you to
know,
speak
and
to
I
it.
turned my head because my contact was bothering me. Is that okay by you?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Again, I'd like an apology.
I have no intention of offering you an apology.
I know you don't,
Mr.
and I'd like that to be noted for the public and for the next time that you will run for office. Okay, as I was trying to bring up before I was rudely again interrupted by you, which seems to be a habit, I was trying to bring something up, and it was this, if I may, if that's okay. If I have something to bring forward, and it's important, but it's not on the agenda, does that mean I have to stay all the way to the end part? That's going to give a lot of people who only have certain schedules, it's going to put a crimp in their schedules. Let's put it that way. Now they have to sit through possibly a couple hours of meetings. Is that one possibility? If that's the case, then I don't think that's worth it. You have to assess that positive with the negative. Yes, you're allowing people to speak, but what you're doing is you're taking and basically stating you can't speak until the end. And people have to get extra babysitters, right? People have schedules, they have to work in the morning. So these are all things that I think we should consider. And as an educator, I try to weigh these options. I mean, that's what you want our educators to do, right? So, those are some questions I'm trying to debate through this situation. Maybe perhaps you could direct us as to what your thoughts and ideas were and why something that has worked for many years is all of a sudden being taken away and switched. Do you think there's a better way? If so, we'd love to hear it. But I do see these as potential pitfalls, and I did want to address the board with it, and I'd like to thank the other board members for not interrupting me. Thank you very much.
Mr. Valenta.
I also am not entirely sure exactly everything that you're about to vote on. But it sounds to me like you think it's okay to quash our First Amendment rights. Yeah.
I'll explain.
If we
But when
can't-
public comment's
that's fine.
over,
That's
I'll
fine.
respond.
But if, just like Mr. Regal said, and I really can't say it much better than he just said it, okay? If we can only speak to what you want us to speak to, say tonight or at any given meeting, then that's quashing my First Amendment rights. And as in any other unconstitutional law or rule, it's my duty as a citizen and my right to disobey such a law. You can haul me out of here in cuffs if you so choose, but I assure you that would be at your peril, because you would be going against my First Amendment rights. So I highly recommend that you don't do that.
Ms. Orthodoxou?
I stood here once and I lectured you about the First Amendment. Shouldn't have to. Pretty sad. You're not changing the rules. We have the right to come here and voice our grievances. So forget your little move to squash our First Amendment right. We pay you. We are your boss. You are our employee. So you can take this vote right off the table now. You want 400 people, 500 people back in here, like we did once before? We can do it. Don't push the issue.
Okay, I'm just going to take the opportunity to explain for those of you who don't understand what this is about. The board in the past has had public hearing at the before the consent portion of the agenda. People get up and address us both about the consent agenda and about items that they wish to bring to our attention. Because of the way we operate, we do not respond. The board chair can respond, but board members do not respond until the end of the meeting. So what we have done is divided public comment into two pieces. The first piece is to address specifically items on the consent agenda. That way, if board members hear something that they then wish to pull on the consent agenda so there can be discussion, we can do so. We have saved the public comment, the non-agenda public comment piece, to the end of the meeting, because that way board members can respond immediately to the comments brought by the public, as opposed to having to sit through the entire meeting while board members forget what's been said or don't know what they want to say, but there's an immediate response. So that is the point that is the purpose of dividing the public comment. This is fairly common practice. It's the same practice used by the county commission. We did it because we thought it would facilitate a more direct interaction between you and us, and that was the point of the policy, and it is not a violation of anybody's First Amendment rights. You may address the board on one of two occasions. So with that being said, if there's no more public comment.
I believe there's one more individual.
One more?
Raised her hand. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't get your name.
I just wanted to concur with the others that I think that it is an unwise move, and that our comments should be taken at either time. And I wonder why the board is not allowed to comment. And could that rule be changed so that the board could comment back to us when we do have questions that do need immediate answers, so that the audience fully understands the line of thinking rather than waiting until the end as well? We have important questions that have not been answered about SB 864 in particular. I want to know why my meeting in September with Nancy Graham and staff pointed out things that were illegal we are doing. We are conducting business illegally. SB 864 requires that the board take charge of the curriculum and materials that are being presented in our schools, which are not by law on our Ed Code 1003.42. So thank you very much. I would like to see if the board can be responsive to us earlier and change that rule instead.
I will now close the public hearing and reconvene the regular school board meeting of January 13, 2015. Dr. Graham, please restate your recommendation for this evening's public hearing item.
Approval of the revisions to Policy 1.09 board meetings to establish the opportunity and rules for administration of a second public comment period at regular school board meetings to enable speakers to address relevant matters not on the agenda of the meeting. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, January 14th, 2015.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Teuber. Any discussion? Mrs. Dozier?
Okay, I will address some of the comments that have been made. I think that, first of all, somebody said, why are we doing this at this time? It is very common for the board to change policies of governance when you have an election cycle of a new board, and we only meet twice a month. So when we meet, we have a workshop, we have a briefing meeting, and it's in certain meetings where we deal with certain issues. And we had to wait until it was time for this to come before us for discussion before the board members could discuss it. And when I say we had to wait, we didn't have to wait, but we did wait because we are ruled by parliamentary procedure, and that is what rule governs this board. It's stated in our policies. The way I look at it, I think you're being given another opportunity to speak. And usually at every board meeting, I try to address people that are speaking. And right now, we are haggling, if you will, over an issue that if we simply had our action items and then we had public comment, at the second part of public comment would probably take place within 30 minutes after the meeting. I mean, because the action part is very, very slow. Very quick. And it's the actual discussion, it's the public comment, it's all of that takes the majority of the time. And it's even when board members have their comments, that's the majority of the meeting. If you actually go and you time our meetings and look at how much time is spent on our actual agenda, it's a fraction of what the entire meeting took place. So maybe that gives an explanation as to why this was brought up. And I will tell you, years ago, we didn't have it, we had it just like this years ago, and then we changed it, and it kind of flips back and forth. It's kind of like a pendulum, and it goes back and forth. And the fact that there's nobody that is being denied the right to speak. You all have the opportunity to speak on any educational issue that you want. And again, I say that to me, it's very important for me to have a dialogue with you, because it is something that is important for me to recognize and acknowledge the fact that you've spoken. And because we don't respond to the issues during public comment, and I hear you say, change your comments. Well, all that would do is, that would probably elongate the meeting, whereas, and see, this is another part of why we have rules, because we shouldn't be interacting right here publicly. Today, Ms. Quackenbush, you were at a meeting with the delegation, and the public had the opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting. This is common practice when boards come together to take care of action. It's not something that this board all of a sudden just streamed up and said, oh, we're really going to shut these people out. That, and I think that to even think that this board would do that is totally off base. That's not the purpose at all. But instead, because every time, usually when I come back to my comments, I go, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so. So I'm like, oh, they've already gone. Well, I go ahead and make the comment, but unfortunately, it didn't fall upon the ears that I wanted it to fall upon. And because if you look at parliamentary procedure, it talks about the way you deal with your agenda. And I think the way that we're dealing with our agenda right now, to say that we're all going to begin to have dialogue with the audience, that would be totally inappropriate. We would lose all semblance of professionalism, and I would never support that. And, as it is, this was brought forward, it was talked about, everybody thought it was a good idea, so I look forward to hearing what my fellow board members have to say.
Mr. Teuber?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a little history. We used to have our comments completely at the end, just like the Board of County Commissioners do, and just like that was happening at the legislative day today. The problem that we found was, and what happens is, if you want to talk about an issue that's going to come up on the agenda, you have to come to our briefing meeting and have that discussion, that public comment there, because the briefing meeting is the precursor. When it comes to the board meeting, we get voted on. So you had no option to say, well, a lot of people can't attend the briefing meetings. So we had it at the end. We said, well, look, we're missing the opportunity. If somebody has an issue that they want to discuss, right before we vote for it, we want to hear about it. So we moved it to the beginning. And so that's where the disconnect became. So it was at the beginning for a long time. But what happens is, every meeting that I've been to since I've been on the board, since we've been elected in November, somebody's left. They give the comments and they say what they need to say, and they say they want answers, but then they don't stick around. Twice you weren't around when the comments came to give those answers because I have them still here in my notes. So the issue, the disconnect that we have is that people speak and we hear everybody, we take the notes, we want to make a comment, and there's a whole lot of people, then we get sidetracked with superintendent's recommendations and all of our comments as far as activities that are happening to board members, and we come time to address, sometimes it fills through the cracks, sometimes people leave. If they know it's going to be at the end of the meeting, instead they don't have to be here at 6 o'clock with the beginning of the presentations. You know it's going to be at the end. You can come in at 6:30 or 6:45. So it's not any more of a demand on your time, but it allows us that immediate feedback. You speak, and then all of us can comment, and so you have everybody to give a comment. That gives you that second comment about anything that happens to do about school board issues. You still get a chance, a second opportunity at the beginning of the meeting about particular things in the consent agenda. So there's actually 2 opportunities rather than 1. So we felt that was the best thing to do. I'm going to support this motion today because, again, if it doesn't work, we can always go back. But the reason why we switched back and forth was because we wanted people the opportunity to speak, and now we see the disconnect. So we're trying to, this time we're going to try to split it up. If it doesn't work, then I would be supportive of putting it back. But as of right now, I'll be supporting this motion.
Ms. LaRiviere.
And I hope you understand the heart of this had nothing to do with squashing anyone's freedom of speech. The heart of it had to do with trying to find a good way so we could address your concerns. So I take offense that someone thinks that my desire is to squash your freedom of speech. That's not the desire. We were trying to do what we could to try to make the agenda take on a better flow. We try it. We try it for 2 board meetings. If we're finding that it's not working well, we can make that change. But the other part within the policy is not just having to do with the public comment piece. It also has to do with when we time our special meetings. There's a lot more within the policy besides that.
Ms. Fisher?
Okay, yes, thank you. I just want to say that when the proposal was made, the intent was for the board members to be able to respond more directly to the public speakers without having that long time in between. And we understand that people often are time constrained and have to leave. So I guess I want to clarify then at this time, if someone comes to a board meeting and they're not here at the beginning and don't fill out a blue card, is there an opportunity then at both times for them to indicate that they wish to speak so that maybe they can time their...
No.
Okay.
So the opportunity, the way that it's written, comes at the beginning of the meeting, at the first public comment opportunity.
Here's my other question. I thought that prior, at the second time, that if anyone did not get the opportunity to fill out a card, we would ask if there are any additions.
And that would happen at the first public comment opportunity, the way the language is written at this point. And let me provide a caution, please, that public comment has already occurred. This is the opportunity for the school board to have discussion with respect to the matter that's pending before them. Please respect their opportunity to have that discussion. And if you give me a moment, board members, if you want to continue with the discussion, I'll try to find the language that addresses that issue.
Because I was thinking that if people decided they would come later in the meeting, then they will not have an opportunity to indicate that they want to speak. So that kind of defeats the purpose, that was the intent, or as Pam says, the heart of what we were intending to do was to improve and increase communication with our constituents and our public. So,
Mr. Martin.
thank you.
The language
Mr.
is on page 3,
I see
paragraph 3B, which indicates that at the beginning of the first public comment portion of the agenda, board chair will invite other members of the audience to indicate their desire to make comment, others being those that have not submitted a card.
So actually, we would need to make an adjustment in this because there would be...
If that's the board's desire.
Right.
That discussion occurred before. I understood the direction to be, for there to be one opportunity to indicate the desire by hand to address the school board.
That was the that was the direction we gave Mr. Martin. That doesn't mean we can't change it.
Exactly, yeah.
Mrs. Dozier.
And I know I've asked this question before. If we make a amendment to this hearing, or this policy this evening, do we have to re-advertise?
That would be a substantive change, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if we made just the change to add, or to ask for an additional, right before this comment, to have the chair ask again, that, you think that would be a substantive change?
ma'am.
Really? Really? Can I talk you out of that? No? Okay. All right, how much longer would it take before this policy could go into place if we wanted to try to change? Well, I don't know. How long would it take? 6 weeks?
Approximately. I was looking for board meeting dates.
27th of January?
Yes, I believe that with the timing of the advertising requirements, that probably the February 9th meeting would be the meeting at which it would come to the briefing, and then the 24th for public hearing, I think, is probably the timing that would have to occur to meet the requirements.
Okay. Board members, would y'all be willing to, I don't want to say table this, but would y'all be willing to have a friendly amendment and say that, put language in here, something to the effect that the board chair will, before the second public comment, again, ask if there are any speakers that have come, would y'all want to do something like that to prolong the, would y'all want something like that?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be just to remove in 3B, the first public comment, just remove the word first?
Well, no, I think you'd have to do it twice, because you've got to ask then, and then you're going to have some language that says that it will be asked again. Is that correct, Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am. No,
Yeah.
I'll work on that language, certainly. If that's the board's desire, my advice would be that you vote down the recommendation tonight, and I understand the direction. We'll work on the language.
Okay, all right, very good.
So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Motion fails 5-0. Okay, board member comments. Ms. Fisher?
I want to say Happy New Year to everyone, and I just want to make a few brief comments this evening. I want to thank Cape Coral Hospital for the Teaching Garden partnership that they have with Calusa Elementary and Middle School. I also want to thank the Student Wellness Policy Team for the briefing this afternoon on the Healthy Schools policy proposal. I think it's really important that we are making sure that we are teaching kids, along with reading, writing, and arithmetic, healthy habits, good eating habits, the need for exercise, because good health is very important. I want to mention that we have several school board advisory opportunities for people to get to know more about what's going on in the district. And if you go to leeschools.net, click on school board, click on advisories, you can apply to become a member. We appreciate those who take the time to volunteer their time and their talents and to advise the board on matters like curriculum, finance, et cetera. I really, in the 4 years I've been on the board, I have really enjoyed working on the different committees and hearing the input from the public, parents, some school staff, and I think it's really important that we open our ears and listen, and we are ready to do that. So please consider, if you have some extra time, serving. I'm looking forward this year to serving on continuous systemic improvement and working on the strategic plan with the wonderful volunteers who are doing that. I want to compliment the Cape Coral Breeze newspaper for their What's Cool in School sections, and thank those people on our staff who take the time to submit entries for that. It's really an upbeat and happy part of the paper. It's good news, And it's a great illustration of what is happening in our schools, and there is a lot of good going on. I want to thank the high schools for providing the opportunity for middle schoolers to attend open houses and see what the offerings are. And I know we have a lot of advanced programs. We have IB, we have advanced placement, we have dual enrollment, and we have a lot of wonderful career and technical programs and a lot of vocational programs for our kids who may not be university bound. So I think they've done a great job, and I want to thank them for opening their doors and welcoming the kids and the parents. Thank you, Mr. Toiber, for your work with the legislative delegation and for your presentation today. Thank you. We've talked about public comment. Regarding the tutoring, you know, I'm going to ask for a little bit more data and research information used to make the decision. And as I listened to the public comment today, a question came to my mind, well, what about in the meantime? And I've been saying in the meantime a lot lately when it comes to the testing. I know we're working on trying to make changes because we are overusing testing. There's way too much going on. And when I visit the schools and when I talk to people in the public and in Publix and my own grandchildren, I know that we're doing a lot of testing, and I want to know, do we need that much data? I know we need assessment. I know we need progress monitoring, and we have always had and done that. I've said this before, too. I taught my first class in 1960, and I never went through a year where I didn't progress monitor or assess when I was in the classroom. So I just want for us to say, in the meantime, before we get to some decision and before the state makes up its mind, what are we doing to the kids? So in the meantime, between now and the 5th semester, what happens to these children who have been successful with the private tutoring, and is there a plan for that? I guess I have that question. I think I want to thank all of those people who come consistently and give their opinion and advocate for their children, because that's your job. Now is the time for answers. Now is the time for some changes. And now is the time for some more concrete action. And so those are my questions, and whenever the answers are available, I'll be appreciative. Thanks to all of our students and staff for their hard work, and I wish everybody a great second semester. And I have 2 granddaughters who will be graduating in May, and they're singing Hallelujah already. Thank you.
Mrs. Dozier.
Yes, I want to remind everybody that during the action part of the meeting, under the consent part of the agenda, we had a resolution, and that resolution is to celebrate Literacy Week in Florida. Also, I would like to talk about the tutoring. I know that Dr. Graham and I had a conversation around the tutoring, and you know, sometimes something sounds really good until you hear somebody else talk about it. And at the time that we talked about it, it sounded good, but all of a sudden a parent says, what about in between? You know, what about during the school year? So I'm wondering, are we shooting ourselves in the foot by taking away the tutoring time during the class time? And I mean, that's just a conversation that I think we need to think about, because, you know, when you said, oh, 5th quarter, oh yeah, that sounds great. I think that'll give the kids more, you know, more hours with the teacher, blah, 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 blah. But now that I'm hearing the parents say that maybe the time during the school year would be hurt, it'll be taken away, blah, blah, you know, it makes a lot of sense to me. So that's just for thought. Also, I heard, and Miss Mary, I can't pronounce your last name, and I apologize. When you said about the week that y'all were going to Tallahassee, well, we intend to be in we should have gotten together and communicated together. I think it would have been a lot better instead of just saying, we're going so-and-so, because we are going to Tallahassee. We have a time that is set for us to go when we go up there with all the school boards from across the state. And that time is set every year, and it is, well, that's what I said. You didn't tell us your time until tonight, and we didn't tell you our time ahead of time. Although that time was talked about when we met in August, and, it was there, and two of you were there, and you didn't hear it. But it's the 11th through the 13th, because Miss Brill said it repeatedly that we would be in Tallahassee, March the 11th through the 13th, visiting our legislative delegation. So that's when we will be there. And, 2 weeks in a row, I don't know that we can get appointments 2 weeks in a row because of all the other people that will be going up there. And they know that we're already coming that next week, and we've already got appointments. So, that's why I wanted to share that with you. Let's see. Make sure I've done everything. All right, board members, I ask you to bring your calendars because we need to set, and we don't have another time before, I think the 27th would be too late. We need to look at a date in February when you would like to have our school board student advisory meeting. Does anyone have any particular date and it should be, I think, from like 6 to 7:30. Does anybody have any particular date that they'd like to shout out? No, all right, let me give you some dates.
May I see your calendar? I didn't know to bring mine. I didn't hear that directed. Board meeting that we.
What about Tuesday, the 10th?
That's FSBA Master Board Training Policy Governance Forum.
Forgive me,
Yeah.
okay, all right, what about, no, I can't do that either. What about,
The 19th?
Monday,
Oh, no,
the 19th? Okay, that is a,
19th?
no, it's a Thursday. Yeah, that's a Thursday. In fact, I can do this from 6 to, I can do that, 6 to, so what we're saying is Monday,
No, Thursday.
no, excuse me, Thursday, the 19th, and it'll be from 6 o'clock till 7:30. And I will also notify Dr. Graham and ask her, I've been working on some things that I'll get to her, and I'm also going to give all of you an agenda that I put together that each one of you can have, that this is kind of what it'll look like, and we'll also if you'll pass a copy over there. I have a couple of copies over there to them. And I will make sure that we have this, and let's see, what's the next thing? Ms. Morgan, I want to thank you for all your efforts for the meeting this afternoon, the different things that you kept us on task about those. I appreciate that. And Mr. Torber, thank you for your willingness to take over the legislative duties. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate everything that you are going to do over the next, because it's not just going to that one meeting. It's every Monday, you're going to have a conference call to talk about what happened the week before in session, and you're also going to have to be writing a lot of letters. There's a lot of extra work with that. I've been there, I've walked in those shoes for a long time, so I just want to overwhelmingly thank you for your willingness, because you were so interested in all of this opt-out business. And
Been there, done that.
and you're already on putting together a bill, so I'm excited about that. And I certainly hope that we can look at the bill that Ms. Quackenbush is putting together, and we can also put that in with ours somehow. Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year. And kids, I know you're taking exams this week, so study hard, and I hope you're already in bed, and do well on your exams, and let's have a great second semester. And I think that's everything. I heard two people say, I want you to answer my questions, but I didn't hear the questions. And I think the one that I answered was the March, but I didn't hear a question. I took notes, but I didn't hear a question from the other person that said they wanted an answer. So that's all I have.
Ms. LaRiviere.
Okay, Happy New Year. You changed it up.
Sorry.
And that's all
I just
right.
looked
We
at
can
you.
go with the flow. A couple of pieces regarding SB 864. I knew it. It's right there. We have taken the policy that has been given to us from the state. We have developed our curriculum adoption policy that will be presented to the next curriculum advisory committee meeting, which in February is the
16th.
second Monday,
It's the 16th, ma'am.
on the 16th. And we will be sharing that. At that time, we will be testing it out a bit, as we will be using that. The committee itself will go through, I believe, foreign languages up for adoption. There are about 2 or 3 of the not big adoption areas, but the smaller ones, that we're going to look at that and try that out with. So I will let you know that a lot of those pieces are in place. As I've reviewed the bill, I know that there are also there is a great deal that we need to make sure that we have in place with regard to public comment and participation. I know that in the past, for some of our, I'm sorry? Okay. I know that in the past, Dr. Tien did an excellent job with providing opportunities for community members and parents to interact with textbooks and to be involved with it. We just need a lot of help with getting the information out there so more people will come. Fortunately, Facebook now is far more proactive than it was at that time, and so hopefully we'll be able to get more participation as we go on. It's a work in progress. We want to make sure that we're doing everything as correctly as possible, and we want to make sure that we have all of the people in place so that we make the right selection and decisions. And another piece to let you know, I have been working with Mr. McCullers, Dr. McCullers. Excuse me, Jeff. Dr. McCullers and Mr. Martin and I are in the process of working on a unified form that could be used for parents so that they would indicate whether or not that their child will not be participating in FSA. The purpose of the form is to, first of all, to make sure that there's consistency throughout the district on what is used. Also, it will be a piece that will allow, hopefully people will get the message that yes, we will support parents who believe that this is not the best thing for their child. It will help for the principals and the testing coordinators and those responsible to make the right decisions as they're planning for space and utilizing staff. There cannot be any promises made beyond that, but I'm just saying we're doing our best. Anything else will be up to principals once they know what they have and what they have to use. The other part is this. I have a frustration with people, with the students tearing the slip on that test or signing in on the computer. And here's the reason why. Once they've done that, we have to pay for that booklet and the signing in on the computer to be scored. It defeats our purpose of what we're trying to do, to let Pearson and others know that they will have a financial penalty. And so part of the reason is if we know ahead of time, that will also get that part taken care of. So we're trying our best to listen, and we're trying our best to work within the statutes to try to see what we can do, and we're trying to come up with something that will meet the needs of our community and also keep us in line and not get us in trouble. And I believe I understand the concern, and I hear the concerns regarding the tutoring. And I am torn with all kinds of feelings because I understand the power behind the fifth quarter as well. So we'll have, if, maybe there will be something that we can come up with for in the meantime. I don't know where that will be. I don't know how that will come. But maybe something, maybe we can think creatively and outside of the box to do something. Maybe somebody will donate some money that will help pay for that. You never know. And then I thank you, Ms. Jackson, for what you've done with your tutoring, and it's clear that you've developed a really good relationship with your students and that you have tuned in to what their needs are. I know that when I was at Lehigh Elementary and we were coordinating the SIS tutoring back when it was first beginning, there was a frustration in seeing that some of the tutoring companies were not really diversifying and meeting the needs of the students. I believe it's not necessarily the company that makes the difference, but the tutor that makes the difference. And it's clear that you have been successful with what you've done and also in developing that relationship with the parents. So I appreciate that. And Mr. Regal, I believe that Dr. Graham addressed where the confusion was with regard to the application and the arrest piece. I believe it was not handled in the public forum, but I thought that something was sent to. So I'm just going to ask Ms. Grant, Dr. Graham, if you're able at some point to address that piece. I thought I knew the understanding of where there was some confusion regarding the arrest record, but it's not my place to discuss that. But I can tell you that the executive director was not arrested, but there was a mix-up with something else. And I thank those people on our staff, on our district staff, for whenever I've asked a question and whenever there's been an issue, they have been amazing at getting back with Dr. Graham and myself. And through it, we found out, can you believe that the Department of Education decided to get rid of a course number for reading in elementary education? So now the report cards are just for show math, and they show language arts. But there is no grade subject area for elementary that's reading. And the teachers are saying that is wrong. And so I asked about that, and so we're all shocked to find out that this was a decision made through Department of Education. And but we have a wonderful superintendent who is going to be looking, and we're going to see what we can do about making changes, because that needs to be changed if we can get Commissioner Stewart to do that. Thank you for all that you do. For those of you who we're ending one semester, some people have exams. Some people, because of their exam schedule, have got the exams already out of the way. And we're on to a new semester with some exciting pieces going on and some really good learning. And I just thank everyone, parents, teachers, administrators at the schools, and district personnel for all that you do.
You can look at Mrs. Fisher because she forgot to say something.
Just one quick thing. I just wanted to congratulate Chrissy and Winston Wood, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you.
Mr. Teuber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple things. First off, Ms. Dozier, thank you for whipping this up really fast for our school board student advisory. One suggestion is to add in the election of officers, to have them pick a chair and a vice chair so they can run their meetings. And then as to Tallahassee, I'm the one that challenged you to go to Tallahassee, and I'm excited that everybody's going to go. I know Ms. Quackenbush already has frequent driver miles for going back and forth there. Unfortunately, we're going to be up on the 11th and 12th, 13th for the School Board Association, and then 2 weeks later, all the business leaders in Lee County, county commissioners, myself, city councilmen, we're all going on the week of the 24th, 25th, 26th. So those are the dates that we'll be up there on those dates. I may go up in January for the hearings, but that's something totally different. That's really not getting legislators' ears. It's going to subcommittee hearings, and it's basically to work the floor and people that are there. That's really not something that we would. You're welcome to come, but it's pretty boring. But and Ms. Quackenbush can fill you in because she's already been to the one hearing. So, but I think I think we had a legislative delegation today. Again, we understand that our bill is what we call bill a kitty pet version, or the people call the watered down version. But it's the intent to get sponsors in both the Senate and the House to get it on the table. Once we get on the table and the discussion comes in, it takes on a life of its own. But if you don't get something on the table and into committee, then you're not going anywhere. Now, we've got an omnibus bill that we have bigger guns than us that are going to get their sponsors, and they may get the bigger bill on the floor because they've got people that have served as senators and so on. That's not us, and that's not me. So we're going through a delegation that has to be willing to do it. Our response this morning was very positive when we were there. Since the time we spoke this morning to this evening, I already had 3 of the delegation comment favorably to me that we did a good job and they're willing to speak to us. So it's a very positive thing. So, but we continue to want your support because, again, it's about the grassroots effort and about them feeling the pressure that I think they're feeling now. The last issue that I have, and Ms. Morgan, you haven't spoke yet. Are you going to talk about the Gonzalez letter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I'm done. Thank you.
Diana Jackson, I want to chat with you after the meeting, please. And I will say to Mr. Regal that the superintendent has met with everybody to discuss the investigation that was concluded. That's done. If you have new information, you may give it to her. If she has anything else to say, she can say it when it's time for her to make comments. I will remind the superintendent that we asked her to give us information about the suspensions at Franklin Park, and we're still waiting for that. And let's see. Mr. Martin, board members have reviewed the report prepared by Thomas Gonzalez of Thompson, Sizemore, Gonzalez, and Hearing in response to the matter referred by the Office of the Inspector General, Florida Department of Education. The board has concluded no further investigation is needed, and there is no action to be taken based on the findings. Please draft a letter to Mr. Blackburn advising him the investigation is concluded. And that concludes my
Yes, ma'am,
comments.
I'll be happy to do that for your signature. I'll prepare that.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that all board members are in agreement that the investigation is concluded and no action needs to be taken. Thank you.
Mr. Teuber.
And just as a point of record, this has been the 11th investigation that we've entertained, the school district has entertained, not this particular board, but, every complaint has been investigated from this particular individual, and 80% of our staff utilization of public records has been for this one individual, and we're spending a whole lot of taxpayer dollars on what now perceives, we spend a whole lot of money doing it the right way. We went and got a professional that does this for a living. He does all over the state. He's probably the most renowned investigative attorney that we've got in the state of Florida. We hired him. He did an investigation. It'll be released to the public now that we've made this determination. You can see it. It's probably twice as long as typical investigations are because he dotted every I and crossed every T because of this former employee. At some point, we have to, public records are there to serve a public purpose, but at some point, you have to take into consideration the burden it's putting on our taxpayers and the resources that it's taking. So, at this point, board, I just want us to be cognizant that if this continues to be harassment by one employee to keep looking for things that, and basically just on a scavenger hunt, at some point, I'm going to bring forward a recommendation to this board that if he wants to continue to do this type of stuff at the behest of the school board district at the taxpayer expense, that we tell him no and force him to go through the courts to have the courts direct us to do so. But I think I would ask this board just to have Dr. Graham continue to monitor his activity, and if it continues to the way it's happened over the last 8 months or 9 months, that we need to take a stand to support our district and our taxpayers. That's all
Thank
I
you.
have.
Mr. Martin, any comments?
Yes, I have a few items of advice this evening. First, Senate Bill 864, which requires the establishment of an instructional materials adoption policy. That policy has been drafted. It's scheduled for review by the school board at the February 9th briefing meeting and consideration for adoption at the February 24th school board meeting, regular meeting at the public hearing. As Ms. LaRiviere indicated, it's also scheduled for review by the Curriculum Advisory Committee for input on February 16th. The draft document, as soon as the advertisement is placed with respect to the public hearing, and I believe it may have already been placed, as soon as it is placed, it's available to the public. If anyone would like to get a copy of that draft, they should contact the communications office for that purpose. One piece of advice that I gave this afternoon, I need to clarify, correct, which was with respect to sales tax referendum. I think I may have misunderstood Mrs. Dozier's question with respect to that issue. District funds can be used to pay the expense of placing a sales tax referendum on the ballot through a special election. There are limitations, though, in law with respect to using district funds for the campaign, for the advocacy to successfully adopt a referendum for a sales tax. That's the distinction. I wanted to be sure that was understood. I did want to give some advice, if I may, with respect to the discussion concerning the law around public comment at school board meetings. There is a Florida statute that specifically addresses this issue that indicates that boards and commissions, such as a school board, are required to provide the opportunity for the public to provide input with respect to matters that are before the board for action, before that action takes place. This is a statute that was adopted by the 2013 legislature because there were rulings by a district court of appeal finding that in the state of Florida there was not a legal right to make comment at public meetings, such as a meeting of the school board or the county commission. In response, though that had been the practice of those public agencies for many years, that court made that clarification. In response, the legislature adopted this law to put that right into place. Again, the right is with respect only to items on which the board or commission is taking action. So with respect to the school board's factual situation, the only legal requirement is for you to provide an opportunity with respect to, for public input with respect to items that are on the agenda, items on which you're going to take action. With that advice and discussing the policy that you addressed this evening, I realize that I need a little bit more direction, if I may, and I'm sorry I didn't think of this right away when we were having the discussion. If you'll recall, the policy has rules with respect to reduction of the time per speaker when there are a certain number of speakers, that if it's over 20, it's reduced to 2, if it's over 30, it's reduced to 1. It's going to be difficult to apply that rule if you have 2 different times at which there's an opportunity to raise a hand to indicate a desire to speak, because you cannot assess how many the total will be to apply that rule against.
I knew there was a reason why we did that.
Right.
That's why we had to add that word.
Yeah.
Steve.
You know, again,
I'm sorry.
we started, that's fine. We started the meeting at 6 o'clock. We started our actual meeting at 6:45 and we were done at 7:10. So I don't know if that's gonna, I don't know how much more. I mean, most of the people here, you know, if we run our business meeting at the beginning and we run it efficiently, I don't know if it's gonna be that much of a detriment that people, you know, as far as people still come at 6 o'clock or 6, you know, I still don't know if that's gonna be a problem. As soon as if they come after the, you know, the presentations and the awards. So, because again, it becomes more problematic if we can't do the count, and then it becomes untenable. I remember the discussion that we had, and the reason why, and we spent an inordinate amount of time on this discussion, and that was the reason. So I would recommend that we bring it back the way it was, try it and see if it does cause, and let the community say if it really causes a burden on the people that are here. Because again, I think it's real important to have that dialogue between hearing the comments and be able to respond rather than the separation. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Other comments? Mrs. Dozier?
Well, and as soon as he said that, then I recalled that conversation and why it is the way it is. So I would certainly concur with you, Mr. Toiber.
Mrs. LaRiviere?
I agree.
Mrs. Fisher? Yeah, we all agree. Just bring it back.
Okay, well, with respect to that matter, if you wish, you could take action on it this evening. There can be a motion to reconsider, and you can come back to the point of a vote, or we can go through the process again if you think there's a need to do so.
Okay, do we have a motion to reconsider? Let's see, let's about.
Someone got
let's-
motion to reconsider.
You want to read the recommendation again?
Well, it would be a motion to reconsider.
Okay,
Yeah,
All
it
right.
probably is best form to have the recommendation read first, yes, ma'am.
okay.
Approval of the revisions to Policy 1.09 Board meetings to establish the opportunity and rules for administration of a second public comment period at regular school board meetings to enable speakers to address relevant matters not on the agenda of the meeting. The effective date of the revision shall be Wednesday, January 14th, 2015.
Okay, do I have a motion to reconsider?
So moved.
Moved by Mr.
Support.
Toiser, supported by Mrs. Fisher. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
And let me give you some advice, if I may, on that,
Yeah.
Ms. Morgan. That was a motion to reconsider, which passed, which is a motion to reconsider the action of voting down the previous motion. So you're back to the main motion now.
okay.
It's already been made. You have discussion and a vote.
Okay,
And there's no discussion on motion to reconsider.
now, I know that. So do we have to have a motion again, or just?
No, ma'am,
Just a
you're
vote?
back to vote on that, discussion and vote. The motion was made by Mrs. Dozier and seconded by Mr. Toiber the
Okay,
first.
so now we're back to the motion. Is all in favor? Please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was great. Dr. Graham?
Mr. Martin answered the question about the language, so now you know it's coming in February. I just wanted to add, since everybody's going to Tallahassee, we also have 5 members of our Administrators Association attending the first week in February. And Mr. Sarah has been on a conference call with them. We've talked about aligning those things that they talk about with the board's platform. And they're going on FACET Day. The FACET Days is when they're going. And also, Mr.
The legislature isn't meeting yet.
They're having appointments with they're gonna be up there that week. It's the FACET days at that week. So, Mr. Sarah's setting up appointments for them, and Mr. Toiber's we're gonna have one more prep meeting with them before they go, and Mr. Toiber will be in that meeting to share again what the important issues are for our district, and again, it's the high stakes testing, the capital funding, et cetera. Also, you asked for, if I want to respond, Mr. Regal there's been an attempt by Dr. Pruitt to reach Mr. Regal 5 different times, and she's not received a response, so she is going to speak with him before he leaves tonight, if he will do that. Also, the what in the meantime, and I will pull together to give you details on this, but I'll say I, but it's we believe in what we want to do with the 5th quarter. The only reason for the timing is that the contract was a January to January contract. We were unable to extend it for 6 more months without going into another year. We continue to have intensive instruction during the day. The Superstars, which is the program we do, is still in place, and the children that were using the outside vendors are able to get into that program without any issue. Also, the schools that have extended time, that has not changed. So we haven't deserted the children, and I understand the comments that were made tonight, and I understand. but we haven't, just, we're not, it's not that we're not doing anything, but I will get you a detailed, and also look at how many students, what it would take to get them in the Superstars, and see how we can help facilitate that with parents, because it could be that we have not communicated that well enough with our parents that they can participate in that program. Also, some positive things that are happening in the district right now. We hear about ACE and IB and AP in general, but we have 3 high schools that have begun participating in the College Board AP Capstone program. And basically, what makes that different than just having AP classes is that there's an AP seminar and there's an AP research class. They take the seminar in 10th grade, they take the research class in 10th grade, in 11th grade. If they get, and those courses are designed to enhance and augment what they get in the specific disciplines, because it's a more global course, and then the specific AP courses obviously are about specific disciplines. If they get a 3 or higher on the seminar and research, and then they also get, I think, 4 more classes, 4 additional AP courses, that they get a 3 or higher, they can get what's called a capstone diploma. So we have Cypress Lake, South, Fort Myers, and Mariner High School who are participating in that program right now, so we're excited about that. Our open enrollment icon on the app has had 146 views since December 1st. The school assignment information webpage, what this tells us is people are still using the webpage, and we'll have to get them used to looking at the app. But the school assignment information webpage has had 2,864 visitors and 3,242 views since December 1st. And we believe that based on the information communications office is getting and feedback from principals, parents are looking at schools and shopping around, which is what we've encouraged them to do, go to the schools and decide what's best for your child. The attendance at choice open houses are in record numbers. It's what the high schools are reporting at this point, and the middle schools. We have, this, I think, is indicative of where we are in our community as far as things growing back. We've enrolled 469 students since January 1st, between January 1st and 11:30 today. Now, we've had 325 withdraw, but we've gained 144 new students just since we've been back from break. But we've enrolled 469 since January 1st. So when I was told it was really busy in student assignment, I said, well, why would it be busy? We haven't even opened the lottery yet. And they said, no, it's not about choice. It's about people who have moved. So we are busy and growing, and good things are happening. The only other thing, Skyline Elementary School, I think I may have sent this to you at some point. They have been named a Leader in Me school, which means their children have adopted the 7 habits, their children and staff, 7 habits of highly effective people, the leadership model from the Leader in Me book by Dr. Covey. And they will be recognized at the Leader in Me Symposium in Charlotte County next month, and I think you all have received an invitation to that. If you have not, I'll ask Susan, but I'm pretty sure you have, so, okay. And as I've said often, it is an honor to lead this district.
Thank you. The next scheduled meetings of the board on January 27th, there's a school board workshop for FSBA development training at 9 a.m., a special school board meeting at 2 p.m., a school board workshop immediately following, as well as a school board action meeting at 6 p.m. At this point, having no other business to come before this body, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Teuber, seconded by Ms. La Riviere. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.